The Roman Republic, by the late 2nd century BC, was a power on the rise. Its legions had conquered far and wide. From Spain in the west to Greece in the east, Roman influence was felt. But this expansion masked deep internal tensions. Rome's success rested on the backs of its Italian allies, who provided manpower and resources for its wars. Yet these allies, despite their sacrifices, lacked the full rights and privileges of Roman citizens. This simmering resentment became a raging inferno in 91 BC with the outbreak of the Social War, a conflict that would shake the very foundations of the Republic. The Social War was not just a military conflict, it was a civil war. Italians, who had fought alongside Romans for generations, now took up arms against their former comrades. They demanded recognition, equality, and their rightful place in the Roman world. The war saw brutal battles, political intrigue, and the rise of ambitious generals who exploited the chaos to advance their own agendas. Two figures stand out in this turbulent period: Gaius Marius and Lucius Cornelius Sulla, men whose rivalry would shape the destiny of Rome. Gaius Marius, a man of humble origins, rose through the ranks to become one of Rome's most celebrated generals. He reformed the army, making it more efficient and opening its ranks to the poor. His victories against the Numidian king Jugurtha and the invading Cimbri and Teutones made him a legend in his own time. Sulla, on the other hand, was an aristocrat, though not from one of the most prominent families. He was a skilled politician and a cunning strategist. He served with distinction under Marius in the war against Jugurtha, where he demonstrated his military acumen and political ambition. The Social War brought the simmering rivalry between Marius and Sulla to the fore. Both men held different views on how to deal with the Italian rebellion. Marius, though a champion of the common man, was reluctant to grant citizenship to the allies. He feared it would dilute the power of Rome and undermine its traditions. Sulla, ever the pragmatist, saw the need for compromise. He understood that Rome's survival depended on healing the rift with its Italian allies. The roots of the Social War lay in the unequal relationship between Rome and its Italian allies. The allies, bound to Rome by treaties, were required to provide soldiers for the Roman army. They fought in Rome's wars, shedding their blood for Roman glory, but without receiving their fair share of the spoils. While Roman citizens enjoyed the fruits of conquest land, plunder, and political power, the allies were often relegated to the sidelines. This disparity fueled resentment and a growing sense of injustice. The Romans, blinded by their own sense of superiority, failed to address the grievances of their allies. The murder of Marcus Livius Drusus, a tribune who had championed a bill to grant citizenship to the allies, proved to be the final straw. Drusus's assassination ignited the flames of revolt. The allies, tired of Roman arrogance and indifference, took up arms to demand their rightful place in the Roman world. They formed their own confederation, with its capital at Corfinium, which they renamed Italica. The die was cast. Rome was at war with itself. The Social War was a bloody and brutal conflict. The Romans, though initially caught off guard, soon brought their superior military might to bear. They faced a formidable enemy in the Italians, who were well-equipped and determined to fight for their freedom. The war raged across the Italian peninsula, with major battles fought at Asculum, where the Romans suffered heavy losses, and at Acere, where Marius proved his tactical brilliance. Despite their initial successes, the Romans realized that the war could not be won by force alone. They adopted a strategy of divide and conquer, exploiting divisions among the Italian allies. They also offered concessions, granting citizenship to those who laid down their arms. This pragmatic approach gradually turned the tide of the war in Rome's favor. The Social War saw Marius and Sulla, both seasoned commanders, fighting on the Roman side. However, their approaches to the war differed, reflecting their contrasting personalities and political outlooks. Marius, cautious and methodical, favoured a slow, attritional strategy. He understood the gravity of the situation and sought to minimize Roman casualties. Sulla, always the risk-taker, preferred bold, decisive action. He won a series of victories, earning him glory and popularity among the troops. The rivalry between the two generals intensified during the war. Marius, envious of Sulla's successes, used his political connections to undermine his rival. Sulla, in turn, resented Marius's interference and his attempts to claim credit for his victories. The seeds of their future conflict, which would tear the Republic apart, were sown in the bloody fields of the Social War. By 88 BC, after years of bitter fighting, the Social War came to an end. Rome, though victorious, emerged from the conflict scarred and transformed. The war had tested the Republic's limits and exposed the flaws in its system. The Romans, recognizing the need for change, granted citizenship to all Italians south of the Pure River. This was a momentous decision, one that reshaped the political landscape of the Roman world. The Social War had profound consequences for the Roman army. The old system of citizen levies, which had formed the backbone of the Roman army, was no longer sustainable. The war had shown the need for a professional, standing army. The legions were reorganized, with soldiers now enlisting for fixed terms of service and receiving regular pay. This new military structure, though more efficient, came at a price. It created a class of professional soldiers who were loyal not to the Republic, but to their commanders. While the granting of citizenship to the Italians may have seemed like a just solution, it created a host of new problems. The influx of new citizens overwhelmed Rome's political institutions, which were designed for a much smaller citizen body. The newly enfranchised Italians, eager to exercise their rights, found themselves marginalized by the established Roman elite. This led to political instability and social unrest, as different factions vied for power in the expanded Republic. The Social War also had a profound impact on Roman society. The war had devastated the Italian countryside, disrupting agriculture and trade. Many farmers, ruined by the conflict, flocked to Rome, swelling the ranks of the urban poor. This created a volatile underclass ripe for exploitation by ambitious politicians. The Social War, though often overlooked, was a pivotal event in Roman history. It marked a turning point in the Republic's fortunes, setting in motion a chain of events that would ultimately lead to its downfall. The war had weakened the Republic, both internally and externally. It had exposed the limitations of its institutions and the deep divisions within Roman society. The Social War also cast a long shadow over the careers of Marius and Sulla. Their rivalry, intensified during the conflict, would have devastating consequences for the Republic. In the years that followed, they would use their armies to settle their differences, plunging Rome into a series of civil wars that would destroy the Republic from within. The Roman Social War was a conflict born of inequality and injustice. It was a war that Rome could ill afford, fought against people who had been its allies for generations. The war tested the Republic's strength and resilience, exposing its strengths and its flaws. While the Romans ultimately triumphed, the victory came at a heavy price. The Social War marked the beginning of the end for the Roman Republic, setting the stage for the rise of Julius Caesar and the birth of the Roman Empire. It serves as a reminder that even the most powerful empires can be brought down by internal divisions and the failure to address the grievances of their own people.